Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back to Comic47vlogs. And it's been a while since I uploaded. It's been around like 8 months or something, and I'm just like, time goes by really fast for me. So for me, it just feels like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, right? But today we're reviewing the Absolute Carnage Omnibus, right? And let me tell you, this thing is pretty massive. Look at this. Like, okay, I know this doesn't really look that thick, but this is around 30 something comics in one. I counted it. I counted the amount of comics it says right here. I think it was like 32 comics or something like that in one. Like, this is, but they make the pages very thin, so it fits a lot in one. I don't want to like spoil anything for you guys, but I'm just going to show you a bit of the front cover and the side. So here's the front cover, right? Here's the first, I'll just show you the book physically, and then I'll talk about the story itself and what you need to read before getting to this. So physically, just looking at the book, this is an awesome cover, right? I think this is the cover to the comic Absolute Carnage number 3 or 4, if I'm not mistaken. And this is just a very and I really like this kind of red they put around here, like a little red square. And then on the side, you got Absolute Carnage, and then with the little Carnage logo here. And then in the back, it tells you all the comics that come included here. I'll just read a few of them. So it says it includes Absolute Carnage number 1 through 5, which is the main story itself. And keep in mind that this includes every single Absolute Carnage main story tie-in, all the issues that are tied into this Absolute Carnage storyline itself. So keep in mind that it's all collected in this omnibus. Now this omnibus cost $100. It is expensive, but it is very much worth it. 32 comics for $100. That's actually a steal. Like, if you were to buy each comic individually, I'm guessing it would be around like $250 or $300. But if you buy it in book form, since it's already kind of like in thinner pages, even though the pages are thinner, they're still very good quality. Like, you feel like you're reading like a comic itself. The book price is $100, but if you buy it on Amazon, I remember last time I checked, it was like $90, so I would definitely buy it like from there, or maybe somewhere where they have a good price for it. And new, like this was new, and it cost me $90, not $100, because I got it from Amazon. So yeah, so that's how the book looks physically, and it tells you all the comics that come in here. Absolute Carnage number 1 through 5, Absolute Carnage versus Deadpool number 1 through 3, Absolute Carnage Lethal Protectors number 1 through 3. So essentially, it collects all the tie-in issues in one. So this is how the book looks physically, right? It's like a very thick book. And what I really like about this omnibus is, even though it has a huge amount of comics, 32 comics in one, I think it's 32, maybe 32, 33. It's still, they just condense it and compact it so well, so that you can literally just put this in your bookshelf, no problem, and you have 32 comics, like easy, right? That's what I like about this. I would recommend, even if you have some of the Absolute Carnage comics, just get the omnibus. You might as well, and maybe just sell the other comics. That's what I'm doing. I did have some of the Absolute Carnage comics, but I was like, you know what? I might as well just get the omnibus because it's all in one, and there's way too many tie-in issues, right? And so this is a paper cover, right? Now, let me just take this out, because this is a shiny cover because this is a hardcover. So this is like a hard. Now, I really like how this looks without the paper as well. I like this, and I like it without it. So without it, it gives you a full page spread, right? This is a panel inside the Absolute Carnage comic, where he kind of unleashes all these little like Carnage, like monster like minions. And this is how Carnage looks in the comic. He looks badass, and he looks awesome. But I really like this cover a lot. And here's the inside of the cover. It's just red. And the inside of this cover is red. Now, let me talk about the storyline itself and what you need to read before you start reading Absolute Carnage. Because remember, Absolute Carnage is not a story you could just like jump right into, just like without any context, right? I mean, you kind of could. You could if you're not like that hardcore into the story, but like for someone like me who really appreciated the Venom story itself that led up to this, you will really want to like read up before you get to Absolute Carnage. Now let me tell you what you need to read. So what you need to read, I have it in comic form right here, is Venom number 1 through 16 or 1 through 15, because issue 16 is already included in the omnibus. Honestly, you could just read issues 1 through 15. Number 16 is like kind of a standalone comic that's not that important, but you can kind of read it. And so yeah, so here's issue 1, you know, issue 2. So I have issues 1 through 15 right here, right? And then you get to Absolute Carnage. Another thing you have to read before getting into it, and keep in mind, this is the 2018 series, written by Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman. Well, Donny Cates is the writer, and Ryan Stegman is the penciler throughout most of the series. And honestly, just these two guys writing this series, this just one of my all-time favorite comics, like storylines just ever, like Venom and the Absolute Carnage storyline. The art is amazing, the colors, the inks, the writing, I just love all of it. So yeah, you got to read that. And another thing, I would recommend getting this trade paperback. It collects 4 one-shot comics this is a prelude to Absolute Carnage. These are tie-in comics, but they're very necessary. So this includes Web of Venom, right? So that comic explains the origin of a little bit more of the origin of the Venom symbiote in relation to the to Null and the Dragon and the Vietnam times that they were testing out Venom and Shield and this and that. So that's kind of important. I think it's pretty important. The one that's the most important is Carnage Born, and I think Carnage Born is the one where they revive Carnage back from the dead. So this is very, very important. That one is very actually Carnage Born and Venom Unleashed that are included in this are very important because it builds up to how Carnage got revived in the first place. Because remember, before this story, Carnage was dead, right? He was just dead. So here is like how they show you how he got revived and what's his plan and why he wants to get all of the Venom symbiotes and people who have gone after symbiotes. So Absolute Carnage is a storyline that focuses on Carnage going after every single person that has ever worn the Carnage symbiote. Everybody. He's going after everyone. It's insane. So pick this up, right? But what this doesn't include, and I feel like it's very weird, it should include it because it's a very important comic, is Web of Venom, Cult of Carnage, issue 1. It's a one-shot comic that's also extremely important to the story. That you're either gonna have to read it online or get the comic individually because it doesn't come in any trade paperbacks that I was able to find. So that's a shame. But I just read it online. I had no choice. I couldn't even get the comic, so I just read it online. So read this. Read Web of Venom, Cult of Carnage #1, very important. Read Venom issues 1 through 15. And this one is kind of optional. Venom First Host. This is a 5-issue miniseries drawn by Mark Bagley, great artist. And so this miniseries focuses on the first host that has used the Venom symbiote. And the reason why I talk about this series before you get into Absolute Carnage is because it features this Venom symbiote. It's an offspring of Venom, so it's Venom's child, Carnage's like brother, right? This symbiote is called Sleeper, and it explains to you Sleeper's abilities, Sleeper's origin, and where this Sleeper symbiote came from. And this is important because this character appears in the Absolute Carnage comic. And it's not super important, but yeah, I would recommend you read it if you don't want to get lost in some of the context. And also, it's a good story. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the best story, but I think it does a good job of introducing Sleeper. But the art is great, though. I mean, you know, the artwork is just, it's very nice. I could probably show maybe one of the panels. I think I have to show a little bit of this. Let me see. Just give me a sec. Yeah, I don't know. Some panels are not drawn by Mark Bagley, but, you know, still got great art. And so anyway, so there's that. So just to kind of summarize, Venom First Host, this trade paperback of Venom Unleashed Volume 1, Venom Web of Venom, Cult of Carnage issue 1 one-shot, and Venom issues 1 through 15, right? That's all you have to read before you get to Absolute Carnage. It might seem like a lot, but honestly, it's such a nice and fun story that by the time you get to Absolute Carnage, you're like hyped for the story. So let me talk about the story itself and what this omnibus does. So this omnibus collects every single Absolute Carnage tie-in, like every single one. The only issue I have with this omnibus, and this is kind of a thing that I was like, ugh, like kind of an issue, is that it does collect everything, but it's not in order. So how do I explain this? Okay, so if it's like Absolute Carnage number 1 through 5, it puts it in one chunk of the book, right here. But then it collects Absolute Carnage versus Deadpool 1 through 3, and it puts it all in one chunk, right? The issue is that you gotta read everything in order. You can't just read Absolute Carnage 1 through 5 and then just read the one-shots later, because the one-shots kind of happen during the story. So let's just say, here's an example, right? So what I had to do was I had to make my own reading list for the exact order of how to read. So I'd have to flip it, and none of the pages are numbered in the omnibus, so you just kind of have to guess where it is. And that's kind of a bit annoying, but honestly, once you get past that, it's definitely really good, the omnibus. So what I mean is, like, for example, here's an example, right? I have to read Absolute Carnage number 1 first, right? Okay, yeah, it's on the first page, right? And it's cool because this omnibus also includes a free comic book day comic, so you gotta read that too. Amazing art, by the way. But then it's like, okay, so I read Absolute Carnage number 1, and then it says I have to read Absolute Carnage Ghost Rider next, right? According to the order. Okay, so if I want to read that, I was reading here, and then all of a sudden I have to find where's the Ghost Rider one-shot, right? I have to go scroll over and check where's issue 1. It's like, oh, I found it. And then I go back to... I read that, and then I read Absolute Carnage Symbiote Spider-Man number 1. It's like, oh, okay, well, let me check where Symbiote Spider-Man number 1. You know what I mean? I have to keep flipping back and forth, trying to find it. So that's kind of an issue for me. It's like it's not in order, so you have to find everything on your own. Unless you just want to read the main story first and then get to the one-shots, but that kind of defeats the purpose because you want to read it in order. For example, the Spider-Verse storyline came in the omnibus format, and they put everything in order, all the tie-ins, so you could just read the book from front to back, from left to right, I guess you could say, in that order, no problems. But here you have to read here, right? You read here first, and then you flip to here, and then you flip back to here, and then you flip back to the end, and then you go back to the main story, and then you go to another, you know what I mean? So that's kind of an issue, but it's not the biggest deal in the world because I kind of let it slide because I'm like, you know what? It's a very good quality book. It gives you 32 comics in one, and it really is worth it. As far as the story goes, I really enjoyed it. This story is actually really enjoyable, and I like it. Some of the one-shots are just not it for me. I just feel like some of them are not... First of all, some of them are not even important at all. Like, they add absolutely, almost nothing to the main story. Some of them are barely even Carnage one-shots. They only count as a one-shot for Carnage just because he appears, in one panel at the end. That's it. Otherwise, it shouldn't even be a Carnage story. You know what I mean? But there are some really good one-shot stories and tie-ins, right? For example, I really enjoyed the Ghost Rider one because you get to see Carnage absorbing Ghost Rider's powers. How cool is that? You get to see Scream, for example. I really like the Scream one-shots, or series, little mini-series that was in here because, first of all, the art is good, the writing is good, and it gets you invested in this character who used to have the Scream symbiote, so that's pretty cool. My only issue with that comic was that it ended too soon because it was that good. But yeah, so honestly, if you really enjoy the Venom series, you're definitely going to enjoy getting this Venom Absolute Carnage Omnibus. And as I said, this story serves as a sort of prequel to King in Black, which is story about Null, the symbiote creator, the god of symbiotes. So this is a kind of prequel to that story. And King in Black, the omnibus hasn't come out yet. The story's finished. The story has been concluded and everything. I haven't read it yet because I'm waiting for the omnibus. That omnibus releases in August of 2022, as far as I could tell. So this year it'll release, but later this year. And that's going to be $150 as far as I saw on Amazon. So get ready for that one, because that one's going to be a size and a half bigger than this one, as far as I could tell. So if you want to read King in Black in the future, and you've already read Absolute Carnage and everything, I would suggest just wait until the omnibus comes out, because there's a lot of tie-ins, and it's really not worth getting every single one individually in comic form. It's just not worth it. I would honestly just wait for the omnibus. Sometimes it comes out actually most of the time it comes out way cheaper, way more convenient, way easier just to have it all in one, right? Like a lot of times it's easier just to get things in book form. It's more convenient and cheaper, honestly, because look, I have Venom's issue 1 through 15, and look, they're just like they're just kind of all over the place, all these comics, you know what I mean? And I can't put it in a bookshelf because you can't see the side. So, but I do like individual comics as well, so they each kind of have their charm. So with that being said, I think that's it for me for this Absolute Carnage Omnibus review. My final thoughts is, although it is annoying that it's not in order necessarily, it's still like 90% worth it. The other 10% is that it's not in order, but it's definitely worth it. I would say check it out, get this book, order it online. I think I would just get it from Amazon, because honestly it's $90 instead of $100, or maybe some other places sell it even cheaper. I'm not really sure, but yeah guys, so definitely get this omnibus if you like the main series. Check it out for yourself, and it's got a really awesome cover. I just have it without the cover, honestly. It looks way better in my opinion, just like the full page spread, honestly. And yeah guys, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time.